Hey everyone, and welcome to the Athenian EmpowHer podcast, where we highlight women leaders and their journeys in the professional world pursuing their passions. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Siri, and today we have an incredible guest, Susan Kelly, a talented graphic designer and entrepreneur who has turned her passion for creativity into a thriving business. We'll be diving into her journey, the challenges of being a freelance graphic designer, and the advice she has for young women looking to break into creative industries.
So, whether you're a future business owner, an aspiring designer, or just someone who loves a good story about a successful and aspiring woman, this episode is for you. Susan, welcome to the podcast. We're so honored to have you here for the launch of our podcast.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and was honored to be asked for your initial podcast.
Susan, thank you for joining us today. We'd love to learn more about how you developed your passion for graphic design and what inspired you to learn more about it.
Sure. So I was always drawn to sort of creative fields when I was young, creative writing, drawing, making home videos. And I think that creative communication is something that's always felt very rewarding to me. And that's how I ended up in graphic design.
We'd love to learn more about your journey into your profession. Were you always interested in graphic design, or did you pursue a different career before the one you have now?
So I was always interested in some aspect of creative communication, graphic design being one part of it. When I got to high school, I felt like my interests sort of expanded beyond that, and I became interested in, government and politics, technology, traditional media, so TV and film. And with all that, I decided to focus on a career in broadcast journalism. So coming out of high school, I actually went to UCLA and studied political science with the focus and goal of going into journalism. I interned at CNN in Washington, D.C. And that whole experience just reinforced that that's where I wanted to be. Coming out of it, I did start a career in journalism. I worked for the CBS radio station in Los Angeles. Being a newbie, you get the very early morning shift. I think I was at work at 3 a.m. and covered all of the emergency first responder feeds. So that was police and fire and ambulance. And it was pretty heavy because you hear a lot of crazy things that go on in LA at 3 in the morning. But it wasn't the sort of communication, the depth of communication that I wanted to do. And so I went from radio into television and did television, made TV movies, helped produce and develop TV movies. And then from there, actually got into technology with ABC.
Technology and movie industry and ABC and news reporting seems like pretty far away from graphic design. What were some key moments that have shaped your career, and why did you choose to start your own firm and pull away from working from a company?
So when I was at ABC, I was doing, as I was saying, the television broadcasting, and they they had a program, a rotational program, where they would take a selected candidate and you could go into each division of the network. So children's and sports, news, prime time. And after rotation, they would place you as an executive. So my boss, who was 100% my mentor, said, I should go out for it. So I applied for the position. And as I was saying before, I was interested in technology. And so I wrote my whole application about how ABC should be getting into this new media, which at the time, totally dating myself, was DVDs, online, early online dial-up. But that was my whole application. So in the end, the network, chose somebody else for that program because they wanted someone that was going to go into traditional programming. But then they came to me and said, would you like to start up the new media division for ABC Entertainment? So it was amazing. So I was tasked with bringing all of those primetime shows and specials like the Oscars online. Fabulous job, right? So it combined sort of, again, the creative communication and technology. And at the time, there was only like two people in the world that had my job, the other two being at like NBC and CBS. So I did that for a while and then decided I really wanted to get into technology, and everything was happening up in San Francisco. So I moved to San Francisco, helped start four companies at that time. And it was then, after having all those sort of years of experience helping startups, that I felt comfortable that I could go out on my own. So my first consulting business was actually more for digital product development, helping companies sort of bring their brands online. And I did that for a while. And then eventually, as things started moving to social media, which isn't really something that was inspiring to me, is when I decided to just focus on the graphic design.
I feel like you went from one like job to a different kind of category of like employment so fast, and that's so inspiring.
Yeah. And
Especially like
and
moving, I feel like that always is such like a turning point. So
yeah,
that's
I mean, I think, and that's what I would say, right, is that you have, we're all sort of multifaceted and we have all these interests, right? And you can have fabulous professional experiences just by kind of following your interests, right? So every one of those things seemed like it was, yeah, like you said, so disparate. But I was just kind of following, things that like looked like it was going to be rewarding to be involved in and be interesting. And it just kind of all stitches together.
yeah, I think it also helps you just kind of be like more well-rounded in different fields, and I think that's definitely like a huge contributor to your current job in kind of how you run your own business.
I agree. And like incorporating tech and bridging, like the past, like you were saying, like DVDs and all those things, and bringing it now into a more modern perspective, like the Grammys and all that. That just seems like that's
That's amazing.
that's you just bridged a new world that's so
Yeah.
prominent to us now. Like that's the world that we've grown up in. Like we don't
Yeah.
know other, and you are like a part of that movement. That's the reason that's like
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, very, very old school.
All right. So you mentioned mentors earlier. Do you have any examples of female role models who inspired you? Who were they, and why do you think it was important to have those role models?
So in graphic design, my number one idol is Paula Scher. I don't know if you guys have heard of her. She's one of the principals of Pentagram, which is a agency in New York City that do the most amazing things visually. They cross all industries, all brand names. They've done work for Coca-Cola, Jazz at Lincoln Center, SNL 50th anniversary. They've done everything. And she herself, her art, her style is very bold, unapologetic, and she is the same way in her personality. And I think that has helped me as a designer to try to take risks with my business and with my also my sort of creative expression, seeing someone like her out there.
Paula sure seemed to have a major impact on you and you pursuing graphic design. Do you have any specific project maybe that you are really proud of that's inspired and empowered off of her work?
So one of my favorite personal projects that I did was a magazine for the music festival scene, and it's called Festival. And I designed covers, interior, and it reminded me of Paula because Paula is very well known for her typography and again, like I said, her bold use of color. And so I tried to incorporate that into the magazine with the design system that I created, the typography, and the composition. So I feel like if I could try to emulate some of Paula's work, that would be something I was very proud of.
That's great. Our next question is kind of more about mentality. How do you stay motivated and inspired in your work, especially during stressful times?
Um, so I guess tough times can have various meanings, right? It can be, financial, creative block. Um, and I guess what motivates me is I find purpose in helping small businesses. So that's what the focus of my graphic design business is. I help small businesses or organizations get off the ground with their branding and visual identity. So I think anytime you have a purpose in what you're doing, that helps you stay motivated, right? So I enjoy, having been part of, startups before, I know what it is like in those early days, and being able to help somebody kind of launch their dream, keeps me motivated. So that's one thing. I think another way is, I'm always learning new skills. For graphic designers, the internet is a fabulous place. The graphic design community tends to be very supportive of one another. So you could be, there's lots of online courses out there. You could be learning logo design from Aaron Draplin, who's amazing logo designer, or branding from James Martin. Like all these very famous, successful designers, share their work because they're trying to bring others up. So that's also motivating, and sort of helps keep me inspired. I recently joined a networking group. It's an international networking group that's only open to female graphic designers. And it's early days, but I think it's going to be a great group. It's nice to be, sort of be able to talk to other women that are going through the same things with their businesses, or difficulties they may have marketing or finding clients, or also just feedback on work that you're doing. So I think that also helps feeling part of a community.
Yeah, I think something a lot of girls our age might struggle with their own graphic design projects or maybe aspiring to do your job in the future is staying motivated. So I think those insights would really help girls that are still interested but might not know where to start or
Right.
are stuck somewhere. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or like finding like that work-life balance because you get to decide what you do and being able to judge like I think I can take on this project or maybe I should hold back. And I feel like having that awareness is a skill and it empowers and inspires others to time
Yeah,
in.
I mean, for sure. Like, when it's your business, right? It's great because you can take the clients you want, take the jobs you want. But it's also, if you don't put your feet on the ground in the morning, things don't move forward. So there's that too, right? And as you say, it's that work-life balance of knowing when to put the mouse down, step away, which is hard to do when you're trying to keep your business going.
You were mentioning about the work-life balance and being able to judge what's too much, what's too little, how much you can do, how much you can't do. So, off that, what are some challenges you've experienced as a freelance graphic designer, and what advice would you give to empower young women to enter your profession?
I think one of the challenges when you're starting out is how to allocate how much time a project takes, right? So often, especially when you want to get the job, you want to land the job, you want to get the work, you might either undercharge or underestimate how much time it takes, which then comes back, to bite you, right? Because your investment, then you're losing money on your investment, which is of yourself. So in terms of how to solve that, my advice would be, and this just comes from doing more and more work, but whenever you're starting to do a project, and there's software out there that will help designers do this, but just to start tracking your time, and you'll be able to see how long it takes you to do, a logo or a postcard or whatever it is, and then you'll be able to know how long it takes and how much to charge. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges in the beginning is you want to land a job and then you don't pay yourself what you're worth.
Yeah, underestimating is
And,
a big thing. And
right.
have you ever felt that you've been underestimated?
Yes, I would think I have. I'd say especially starting out, right? Because before I started my graphic design business, I was more on the product development side, and or as a creative director, where I did manage sort of the art direction and art strategy, but I wasn't really doing the graphic design myself. So it took a little bit of a switch mentally, I think, especially with my network, where I was getting a lot of my jobs. But I always think being underestimated actually is a position of power sometimes because then it's easier to prove them wrong, right? When you come in there and there's all these high expectations, like it's going to be harder for you sometimes to I guess match that. But if they don't see you coming, right, and then you can do it, and you're going to do an amazing job, then it just blows them out of the water. So I don't mind being underestimated, I think.
I think one of the biggest issues for high school girls in basically any field, any hobby, like possible profession is being scared of being underestimated. So hearing that from a professional, I think
It's very
is
inspiring. It's
is
empowering.
empowering.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I know people always feel like I have to be sort of right there at the table with everybody, but I think if you're prepared and you know your stuff, you can do it. You'll show them not to underestimate you the next time, right?
Thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your journey with us today. Your story is such an inspiration, and we know it's going to spark some newfound creativity in all the young women tuning in.
For everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed our first episode of our Empower Her podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, check out our website, and also listen to our interview on YouTube. We've got amazing stories and guests coming our way, so stay tuned.